Live bait or artificial lures? Which one's really better? I've had that argument more times than I can count. At boat ramps, at bait shops, standing knee-deep in some river with another angler who swears his way is the only way. And after all these years chasing fish from one end of this country to the other, I can tell you the honest answer isn't the one most people want to hear. It's not always this or always that. It depends on the water, the day, and what you're actually trying to do out there. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to know exactly which one to reach for and why. Let's get one thing out of the way first, because I know it's on some of your minds. Is fishing live bait cheating? No, it's not. I don't care what some purist told you at the ramp. Fishing is about getting out there, catching fish, making memories, and maybe bringing a few home for supper. If a nightcrawler under a bobber does that for you better than a crankbait does, that's not cheating. That's just fishing smart. Now, does that mean live bait and artificials are interchangeable, that you just grab whichever one's closest and go? Not even close. They behave completely different out there, and if you don't understand why, you're going to leave fish in the water no matter which one you're throwing. Here's the thing most folks get wrong. They think the question is, which bait is better? That's not the real question. The real question is, which bait fits what I'm doing right now? A tool that wins on one lake on one morning can be the wrong tool an hour later on the same water. Once you understand why that's true, you stop arguing about which one's superior and you start actually catching more fish. So let's break it down piece by piece. Point 1. Keeping it alive is a job all by itself. Live bait is exactly what it sounds like. Something alive. Worms and night crawlers, minnows, shiners, chubs, leeches in freshwater, mullet, shrimp, pinfish, squid if you're working saltwater. And because it's alive, it's on you to keep it that way. No live well, no aerated bucket, no worm box. You're going to lose bait, and you're going to lose it fast. That's the part beginners never think about until they're out there watching their last minnow go belly up 2 hours into the day. This is exactly why bank fishing and live bait can be a rough combination. If you're walking the shoreline, moving spot to spot with no way to keep your bait cool and oxygenated, it dies on you. And suddenly your day's over before it should be. That's why night crawlers in a box work so well for bank guys. They hold up longer out of water than bait fish do. Artificial lures don't have any of this problem. A crankbait, a jig, a soft plastic, none of it needs to breathe. You can toss it in a tackle box, drive 4 hours, fish 3 different lakes in one day, and it's exactly as good on cast 400 as it was on cast 1. That's a real advantage, and it's the reason a lot of guys who fish hard and fish fast lean artificial by default. Point 2. How you rig it changes what water you can fish. Live bait almost always goes on a circle hook or an octopus hook. Simple, effective, great hookup ratio, but not weedless. That matters more than people realize. Artificial lures, on the other hand, can be rigged a dozen different ways. A Texas rig slides right through grass and brush without hanging up. A crankbait doesn't, but a jig with a weed guard does. That range is something live bait just can't match, and it's the reason your rigging choice has to match where the fish actually are. Point 3. Where the fish live decides which one wins. If those fish are sitting out in open water or cruising a flat, live bait is deadly. Drop a nightcrawler under a bobber in a pond, and you might catch bass, crappie, bluegill, catfish, carp, whatever's swimming by that can fit that hook in its mouth. That's the real strength of live bait. It doesn't discriminate. It looks, smells, and moves like the real thing, because it is the real thing, and in clear water especially, that realism gets bites artificial lures just can't buy. Now flip it. Those same fish tucked into a brush pile, sitting under a dock, buried in a grass line, that's a different story. Throw a live shiner on a plain hook into that cover, and you're going to get hung up, lose your bait, maybe lose your whole rig. That's where a weedless soft plastic earns its keep. So here's the rule I live by. Fish relating to open water, live bait's got the edge. Fish relating to cover, artificial's got the edge. Learn to read which situation you're in, and half this argument solves itself before you even make a cast. Point 4. Speed matters more than people think. I can make 6 casts a minute all day long with a spinnerbait or a topwater, working a bank, covering water, hunting for where the fish are actually holding. My lure doesn't care. It's plastic, it's metal, it doesn't get tired and it doesn't die. Try that same pace with live bait and you'll kill your minnows or your shiners inside 20 minutes. Live bait just isn't built to survive that many hard casts and retrieves. So if you're the kind of angler who likes to cover water and hunt fish down, artificial's your tool. If you're the kind who's happy sitting in one honest spot, soaking a worm, enjoying the morning, live bait will serve you just fine. Neither one is wrong. They're just built for a different pace of fishing. Point 5. The biggest fish in the lake are the pickiest. This is where it gets interesting, and it's something most anglers never learn because they never get to watch it happen. A few years back, I was fishing a lake down in the Ozarks with a friend of mine who guides that water for a living, and he had a big shad hooked up, sitting maybe 10 feet down. We watched a striper that had to be pushing double digits circle that bait for what felt like 5 full minutes, nose right up on it, backing off, coming back around, before it finally committed. That fish inspected that bait like it was buying a truck. That's the lesson right there. The bigger and older the fish, the more it studies what you're offering before it eats. A rough-looking bait, live or artificial, gets ignored by the biggest fish in that lake, even if smaller ones will hit it all day. And here's the layer under that, the one that actually matters more than live versus artificial. Feeding windows. I've had days on the water where the whole lake goes quiet, and it doesn't matter if you're throwing the liveliest shiner in your bucket or the best crankbait money can buy. Nothing's biting because those fish just aren't feeding right then. And I've had the opposite, where the bite turns on for 45 minutes and every angler on that lake, live bait or artificial, is hooked up at the same time. Presentation matters. Bait choice matters. But timing the feed matters more than either one, and that's something no bait in the world can fix for you. So where does that leave us? If what you want is variety, catching whatever swims by, keeping the kids or the grandkids entertained, a relaxed morning where the fish decide what's on the menu, live bait is hard to beat. If you're hunting a specific fish, working through cover, covering a lot of water fast, or targeting bass specifically, artificials give you range and durability live bait never will. Me, I carry both. I've got worms in the cooler and jigs in the box, and which one comes out first depends on what that water's telling me that morning. That's not indecision. That's just knowing your options and picking the right one for the job in front of you. I want to hear from you on this one. Which one do you reach for first? Live bait or artificial? And what's the best fish you've ever landed on it? Tell me down in the comments. I read every one of them, and I'm always curious which way this crowd leans. At the end of the day, neither one makes you a better fisherman. What makes you a better fisherman is understanding why each one works and having the sense to know which tool the water's asking for that morning. That's the whole game right there. Get that part right, and it stops being live bait versus artificial. It just becomes you, catching more fish than the guy standing next to you who never bothered to learn the difference. Tight lines, folks. I'll see you on the water.